As the election for the new Provisional Chief Prosecutor was held in Parliament, the scenes resembled one normally limited to that of football stadiums. After a joint meeting of their parliamentary groups at the DP's headquarters, the DP and SMI determined plans for further protests to occur next month. Aura News reveals the education and employment history of the new Provisional Chief Prosecutor in order to answer the question, who is Arta Marcu? Good evening. It's 6 o'clock on Monday, the 18th of December 2017. Welcome and thank you for joining us tonight for the English edition of Aura News, bringing you the day's national top stories translated into English 6 days a week. As flares were thrown by the Democratic Party, Arta Marcu was elected as the new Provisional Chief Prosecutor of Albania with 69 votes in favour, 2 against and 2 abstentions. There was no denying the situation was tense at the Parliament as Chair of the SMI, Monika Gruemadi, attempted to remove the voting cards supplied for the members of the opposition parties. The dramatic scene escalated further when the DP deputies, Endri Hassa, Flamru Noka and Ervin Saliani threw flares onto the podium of the Parliament, forcing the National Guard to have to defend the Assembly Speaker, Gramos Rucci, and Prime Minister Edi Rama with umbrellas. The process of electing a Provisional Chief Prosecutor has been a tense one right from the beginning, when the chair of the Democratic Party, Lulzim Basha, requested the majority not to vote on a Provisional Chief Prosecutor, declaring it unconstitutional and warning that such action would have serious consequences. This is one of the difficult days for democracy, said Lulzim Basha. Speaking after Basha, former Prime Minister Sali Berisha tried to speak, but the podium was blocked by the National Guard. After a few minutes, the Speaker of the Assembly resumed the session, allowing Berisha to make his speech. What happened today is unprecedented in the history of Parliament, said Sali Berisha. The tension in the room remained still. In an attempt to calm the situation, and as the smoke continued to rise in the Parliament, the chair of the SP's parliamentary group, Taland Bala, called for a postponement on voting over any remaining issues to occur in another parliamentary session, a request which was approved. Protesters clashed with police officers in order to enter the Parliament Hall today in the same moments that the voting procedure for the Provisional Chief Prosecutor was beginning. Banners, flags and flares were thrown in the direction of police, while protesters were egged on by the calls from the opposition's leaders. Police lines were established while waiting for the Special Force Eagles unit to arrive, who were called as an additional security measure. With members of the opposition parties coordinating a stay within the Parliament and speaking to sympathisers on the outside, the message of the protest was this: a vote on a Provisional Chief Prosecutor to be appointed by the Rama government should not be allowed. SMI Chair Monika Gruemadi said that they would not allow the election of a prosecutor who would be, as she called, a Chief Prosecutor of drugs. Rama must leave. The government has already proved that it belongs to the Habilais, said Monika Gruemadi. Police officers surrounded the Parliament and remained on alert throughout the duration of the session. Protesters scattered from the area following the conclusion of the opposition leaders' speeches as work began to clear the space on George W. Bush Street where the protest had just been held. The Parliament has elected a Provisional Chief Prosecutor with 69 votes in favour and 2 against. Despite the opposition's objection, Arta Marcu will take over the post of Adriatic Lala, whose mandate has already been completed. So, who is Arta Marcu? In regards to education, our new Provisional Chief Prosecutor graduated from the University of Tirana's Faculty of Law in 1999. In 2002, she completed her studies at the Magistrate School of Tirana. From 2003 onwards, she has received training both inside and outside the country from academic institutions such as the School of Magistrates, the University of Geneva's Faculty of Law, TAIEX, OPDAT and more. Arta Marcu also has extensive judicial work experience, which held her candidacy in high regard. She worked as a prosecutor in the Prosecutor's Office of the Fia Judicial District for 2 years in the period 2001 to 2002. From 2002 onwards, she was appointed as a prosecutor at the Prosecutor's Office of the Shkodra Judicial District. From April 2009 until January 2016, she served as the Vice Director of the Joint Investigation Unit for the investigation of economic crime and corruption in the Prosecutor's Office of the Shkodra Judicial District. During the period 2010 to 2014, Arta Marku worked as a pedagogue at John Buzuku University in Shkodra. Marka actually started her career at a time when the chief prosecutor in Shkodra was Ulsi Manja. Over the past 16 years, the cases that have been investigated by Marku and continued on to be represented in court are scarce in history, though one of her cases was that of Professor Van Chafa, who was declared innocent by the decision in the court. After the extraordinary meeting of two parliamentary groups, the Democratic Party and the Socialist Movement for Integration have announced that in the first weeks of January, a wave of protests to remove the Prime Minister Edi Rama will begin. The two political forces of the opposition have not yet clarified what actions will be taken to the parliament under such conditions that they call illegitimate. After the session where the new prosecutor was voted amongst the rising smoke, former Prime Minister Sali Berisha proposed that opposition MPs give up their mandates, stressing that the majority has turned the parliament into a collaborator with crime. The opposition might have to withdraw their mandates, said Sali Berisha. The Socialists say the opposition's position is a protest against justice reform, while the SP MP Taulant Bala said that Basha is frightened of the open cases before the prosecution with his name on them. There was no lack of live debates for television between the chairman of the Socialist Movement for Integration, Monica Kruemadi, and the chairman of the Law Commission, Ulsi Manja. The President of the Republic, Ilir Meta, has honoured the former Director of the State Information Service, Visho Ayazi Lika, with the Golden Eagles decoration for his special contribution to the fields of national security, the fight against terrorism, and in particular, the fight against organised crime and drug trafficking. President Meta emphasised that the actions taken by Mr. Visho Ayazi Lika in the aforementioned areas had a strong, positive and direct impact on the overall national security of the country. Strengthening the independence, integrity and professionalism of the State Information Service is a necessity to strengthen not only the stability of national security of the country, but also to strengthen Albania's ability to export to neighbouring countries and partners with more securely and with fewer problems, said Ilir Meta. During the ceremony, President Meta emphasised that the Information Service has continuously done a good job, bearing responsibility despite challenges of patriotism and difficult conditions, often under significant political pressure. On the occasion of the International Day of Immigration, the exhibition I Am Albanian was opened today in Tirana. This exhibition begins with the first Albanian emigration, mostly the Arboresh in southern Italy. At the opening ceremony, the Mayor of Tirana, Erion Veliaj, stressed that this exhibition comes as a gratitude to that part of the Albanians who, although far from their homeland, have maintained the Albanian traditions and customs. He went on to highlight personalities such as Inva Mulo, Eno Peci and Oleg Cezari, who have heightened the name of Albania through their work in foreign lands. Veliaj focused on the role and importance that the government has given to Albanians living and working abroad, where he emphasised that the establishment of the Ministry of Diaspora is a step forward in the promotion of economic diplomacy. Today we are in a situation where we are aggressively pursuing the issue of economic diplomacy. Today, the greatest patriotic act you can do for the country is to invest and make sure that the economy continues to grow. It's even better to also have foreign investments here. What I like is that following the Diaspora Summit, a large number of the diaspora have turned not only into agents of marketing, but also into foreign investment agents, sometimes even better than the diplomatic service, said Erion Veliaj. Also, the head of the municipality of Tirana said that Albanians, wherever they are, serve as communication bridges between their homeland and new countries, strengthening relations and bringing about mutual development. For the first time, we have more Italians coming to Albania than Albanians going to Italy. I really believe that both immigration and emigration has brought and will continue to bring many positive things. I believe that with today's exhibition, we have a way to see a sort of summary of the last 500 years of immigration, said Erion Veliaj. Veliaj emphasises that the right to vote for all Albanians, no matter where they reside in the world, was an issue of the utmost importance for the ongoing development of the country. We still have to decide whether it will happen electronically, whether it will happen by mail or through our embassies. Each variant has its pros and cons, and of course, this also needs an agreement with the opposition. But I believe that after 27 years of treating our immigrants only as economic shareholders, it is time to treat them as political stakeholders too, said Erion Veliaj. In the end, Mayor Veliaj assured all those living outside the homeland that they will have all the facilities and cooperation of the municipality of Tirana if they want to invest their savings back in the country. That's all for our English edition this evening. My name is Alexandra. Please join me again Monday through Saturday at 6 p.m. for your local news in English. On behalf of Aura News, thank you and good night.